Man, I don't know what to say. We have a guest today, and the guest, dude, just come on up, man. This is Will. Yeah. Dude, you didn't hang on. That was a pretty lame applause.
Lame.
Dude, but wait until he's finished. You're just gonna love this guy as much as I love this guy. So here's how I met him. You were 17 years old. You were sitting right here.
Yeah.
About third week of the semester. I don't know. I was talking about something. I have no idea. And you asked a question. You responded to something, and then you had the microphone, and then you started talking. And I said, "Yo, hang on, stand up, man." And then I wanted you to air it out, and so you started airing it out, and you were getting into that. Will kind of, it's not really a preaching mode. Lori and I can't like really describe it. It's just the Will Smart thing. And I went, damn, man. And I just sat down right here. And for like the next 10 or 15 minutes, I'm like, just go, man, just go. And I just sat down. You were 17 years old.
Yeah, I was 17. I had a Tupac shirt on. Y'all might be a little too young for Tupac Shakur, but back in the day, man, he was the guy.
And he asked me, do you know who this is? And I said, nah, man, I don't know who that is. I've been listening to Tupac since before you were born, man. And he believed me that I didn't know who Tupac was. Anyway, listen, so tell us about you. How'd you go to the first slide? There you are. That's a great photo, by the way.
All right.
Just give us the short summary. We're going to talk about education today.
All right, so hey, everybody. My name is Will Smart. And I am a proud Penn State alum. So when I say we are, that was a little lame. We are, we are, thank you.
You're welcome.
Woo!
All right, listen, I'm just going to go sit down, all right?
No, we need you up here. So look, just a little bit about me. I'm a 2019 Penn State alum, College of the Liberal Arts, double major psychology, concentration in neuroscience, global international studies, right? Minor in econ, stuff like that. And
Wait, hang on. You were also here 5 years, so.
Yeah, I stayed an extra year because I love school so much.
Yeah. I don't want to make people think like they're like losers for not like doing all the cool stuff you did.
Yeah, no, it's cool to be in school. Y'all don't think that? Wait till you get to the real world and start paying bills, man. You're going to wish you was back here. So, but yeah, I get to my last year. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to just make an impact. And then I learned about something called Teach for America, and I thought what they were doing was really cool. It was about developing your leadership and serving underserved communities. And so I taught 11th grade chemistry, 10th grade algebra 1 back in my hometown of Philly. And it was such a profound experience, so much so that I decided to become a recruitment manager to empower, passionate young leaders like the people in this room to make an impact, right? So that's just a little background, but I know Sam has a few questions for me.
No, well, listen, man, tell us about your schooling growing up. How was it?
Okay, yeah. All right, yeah, I guess it would make a little bit more sense. Let me tell you a little bit about my background and exactly how I got into this path. So I am the child of immigrants. My parents are from a small country in West Africa called Sierra Leone. Any Sierra Leoneans in the house? Okay, so I grew up in a single parent household, low income community. From Philly, and when I was in school, we didn't really have that many resources. We did, but the thing is, my mom, was an immigrant parent, so it's like I knew the value of education. I always just try to make the most of what I had. And the thing is, I actually was shocked that I was actually I'm an alum of Penn State, because I wouldn't even be here today had it been for nonprofit, community-based organizations that gave me an opportunity in areas where it's there's not much opportunity to apply for a scholarship and to get Penn State paid for, because I wouldn't be here because I can't afford it. Tuition is going up and up. Y'all can resonate with that though, right? Maybe not. And so coming from that background, I was already like acutely aware of social inequity, the effects of poverty. And when I got to college, I was like, okay, I don't know what I want to do, but I know I want to make an impact. I know I want to help people, right? So I'm fiddling around. I took Social 119. That was a pretty cool class. And then my mom was like, hey, maybe you should be a doctor, because in 6th grade, I told her, hey, brain surgeons make a lot of money, but that might be cool. She was like, okay, do that. So I was studying to be a doctor, because what better way to help people than to heal people? And I wanted to be a doctor specifically in underserved communities, because growing up with low income, the healthcare system and the insurance system did me and my family, for the lack of a better word, dirty. You know, if you don't have certain insurance coverage or you don't have a certain amount of money, you can't get the healthcare that you need. You can't get the access that you need. You're denied care when you most need it. Had it not been for free clinics and government-sponsored programs, I might not even be here today. And so I wanted to I wanted to be a doctor to expand opportunities in people that came from backgrounds like me. And so fast forward a little bit, and I told Sam a little bit about this. I got this internship at Howard University Hospital, and I loved it. I was shadowing black doctors serving a black community. Here we got our black doctors in their pristine white coats, right, with their pagers, marching through the concrete hospital, like helping people. I had old ladies coming up to me and saying, young man, I'm so proud of you. I'm like, I guess I didn't even do nothing yet, but I'm trying to learn, right? But it was like such a profound experience. It was so inspiring. However, something for me began to shift, because every morning we would walk into the hospital to shadow physicians helping the community. We would walk by homeless people laid out in the street, laid out in front of the door, that couldn't get access to the care that they needed. And then it's like dawning on me. I'm like, no matter how hard the doctors are working in the hospital, they couldn't help the people out suffering on the street. This is a systemic issue. And I was like, all right, look, I need to hang up this white coat. I can come back to this. I need to change my major. I was a biobehavioral health major. Any BBH majors here? Jeez, man, what are we here? So I was studying biobehavioral health because I was interested in that intersection. But then I had to switch my major because I was more interested in studying systems, because really, a lot of people come here, they say, yeah, I want to help people. But look, I'm going to tell you this, helping people is not enough. Why do people need help in the first place? Because of broken and dysfunctional systems. So I'm like, okay, let's study these broken and dysfunctional systems in hopes that we may be able to change them. So then I switched psychology to better understand people, global international studies to better understand the world and the systems that govern the world. I get to my last year, like there's some seniors here that didn't go to the career fair and they should have been there, right? And I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I found this organization called Teach for America. And their whole philosophy was that we're trying to find our generation's most promising leaders, and we want to help them use their talents to make the world a better place. I was like, okay, that sounds pretty cool. Who doesn't want to make the world a better? Who wants to make the world a better place? Okay, so we finally got something here, right? So I was like, okay, let's do that. And so I signed up to join the fight, and I taught 11th grade chemistry, 10th grade math, because I wanted to expand opportunities in communities like mine. And so I went to Philly to teach and serve as a teacher in a low-income community, because those communities, our communities, need us. So that's a little bit about my background and how I got into teaching, because I think teaching is a profound act of leadership, and it's a way that we can work towards social justice now rather than later.
All right, so give us the 1-minute version of what TFA is.
Okay, so 1-minute version of what TFA is.
And then we're going to talk about the systemic issues.
Okay, let's get to it. So I said a lot of people think it's a teacher prep program, but that's not the case, right? We are a nonprofit leadership development organization, and we're looking for promising young leaders, right? We want them to use their talents to make the world a better place. How do we make the world a better place? So of course we focus on the issue of education, because we know that education is the passport to the future. Y'all heard that one before? Yeah, nah, y'all still asleep, okay? Hopefully y'all wake up. So education is a passport to the future, but the education system in this country is broken. We're gonna talk a little bit about the stats today, but here's one stat. There's 16 million children living below the poverty line. 50% of them will drop out before they graduate from high school, let alone make it to college, because the factors that they can't control. And we're going to talk about those factors in a little bit, right? Now, children don't even have that chance to apply themselves. So last class, we were talking about choice and chance. So if I'm in a community that I don't have the resources to even actualize my potential, what chance or what choice do I have? Okay, now think about how this impacts other aspects of our society, right? The school-to-prison pipeline, mass incarceration, wealth and income disparities, the cycle of poverty, and it goes on. You feel me? You feel me, all right? And so the philosophy is that if we can get passionate young leaders and we cultivate their leadership, we coach them, we develop them, we put you in a network of change makers, then we can make an impact. So how this works is that in the short term, you serve as a lead teacher for 2 years in a low-income community. There, you are building your leadership by being proximate to our nation's greatest injustices, right? And then you're going to get coaching from Teach for America, partnering with the community, and leveraging the skills and talents that you already bring to make an immediate impact on kids in the larger community. And then after your 2 years, you don't have to have a background in education. As a matter of fact, it's great that you have different in a variety of majors because it allows you to bring different tools with you into the classroom. Now, after the 2 years, after the leadership that you gain and the impact that you have from working with underserved communities, we support you for a lifetime of impact. We have 100 graduate school partnerships, right, that offer application fee waivers, tuition discounts. We have an alumni network of 60,000 members strong, and our alums go into different fields like they go into politics, they go into healthcare. They stay in education because just like we need great teachers to provide quality education and to care for our kids now, we need great doctors to expand healthcare access in our most underserved communities. We need great lawyers and policymakers to advocate and rewrite policies that have disenfranchised our communities for hundreds of years. We need great equity-minded leaders in every sector of society actively fighting to make a change, right? Because the issue, in my opinion, is that we have too many people in power that have no idea what it's like to serve our communities, yet they're making all the laws and controlling our funding. So this is why we're more than just a teacher program, we're a leadership development organization. And that, in a nutshell, in 2 minutes really, is Teach for America.
And you can go, these dots here, go back for a second. These dots are all the places where you're operating, including rural communities, urban communities, low-income communities.
Yeah, a lot of people, when they see low-income communities, we're only thinking about inner-city urban areas, and that is a high need. But let's not forget about our rural areas, too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And you were on a couple reservations, Native American Indian reservations.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
We have operated there.
So the idea is people get a full teacher's salary, which could be 60 grand, could be 30 grand, depends on the community.
Yes.
Right? Starting out. So this isn't like you're going to make $15,000. You're going to do well.
Yeah, it's not a volunteer program because just like fighting the good fight, so is getting paid. We got to pay bills, we got to pay rent, so we got to do that too. So it's full-time, full salary, full benefits, 30 to 60K. Right, depending on the regions. Right? In New York, you'd probably make around 60K. If you're in, maybe the Mississippi Delta, you might make a little less than that.
Yeah. Dude, awesome, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Thanks for that. Thanks for being here. And now let's have a conversation. And you're going to have an opportunity to get more information at the end of class. But, let me just say, for me, it's important and it's refreshing to hear you. Because you are, what I just heard from you is making a passionate plea to believe in the possibility of system change.
Yeah.
Because if we don't believe in system change, if we don't see it, it's not going to change. Nothing changes. And the only reason that things have improved over the years in the way that they have is because people like you came before and said, no, let's do this. Let's make it happen. Yeah. So let's go to the next slide. So can we just talk about funding of schools? Because I want to talk about the inequality of schools. Like, people don't, if you don't travel around, if you don't visit schools, if you don't read, if you're not paying attention, then you really probably are not going to have a sense of just how incredibly unequal schools are.
Exactly.
And so one of the bases for that is the fact that schools, and it's different in every state, but schools disproportionately rely on local property taxes. And the reason for that is because, people decide like, hey, school's really important. And I want to make sure that my kids or people in my community, my neighbors, my kids, my families, I want them to go to the best possible schools. And so people want to be able to fund those as close to home as possible, which makes a lot of sense.
Right.
But what that means is that the poorest communities have the least amount of money to fund the schools. And the wealthiest communities have more money, right? And this seems to me the foundation of the deep inequality that exists out there with schools.
Yeah, most definitely.
So what do you see? What do you see? What have you seen in this regard? Or let's do this. Actually, let's I want to have you have a conversation with somebody. Who went, so can we get somebody who would volunteer who went to a really, really wealthy school? In the U.S.? Yeah, a wealthy school in the U.S. Like, yeah, you were in Stella. You were in Madison, right? Wealthy school. Wait, where'd you go to school? Oh, Kitchener. All right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Wait, did you go to public school? Private school? Who went to a really wealthy public school? Like really wealthy public school in the U.S.
Yeah. Hey, where'd you go to school?
Where is it?
Council Rock South. It's
Is it?
30
It's
minutes.
really-
I live in Bucks County.
Like
Rat. Oh,
really,
snap.
really good.
So this could be
Top notch.
talk about the
Yeah.
Yeah.
Philly and then
Okay, here,
the
come.
house.
All right. All right, man.
Okay.
So, go to, yeah.
What do you think about getting the food? Like, you wealthy people have like different perspectives. This kid went to Council Rock,
I went
30
to
minutes away.
Yeah? Yeah?
Yeah, let's get like
Let me ask you, do you
Well,
have a chemistry lab at your school?
we had like everything. Like it was a big ass school.
Yeah?
Like I graduated like 496 kids.
Yeah? All right, hold. So what's your name? Where'd you go to school?
My name's Mariana.
Wait, hang on. Yeah, just push it up. Yeah.
My name's Mariana, and I went to school in Miami. It's a school called Mast, and it's like in one of the wealthier parts of Miami. It's like in a little island.
It's a public school.
Yeah.
So, go ahead. I want you to interview her, man. Like, we're going to compare your school to his school growing up and where he taught
Okay.
in TFA.
Hey, first of all, it's nice to meet you.
You too. Nice
All
to meet
right.
you.
You nervous speaking in front of the class?
Not really.
Okay, so I think a question that comes to my mind, first things first, did you have an auditorium in your school?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
It was, yeah.
Did you have a gym in your school?
We did, yeah.
Wait. What did it look like?
Yeah, tell us a little
How
bit,
many
like
seats?
describe how it looked like.
Our gym was an outdoor gym, so it wasn't, but we had a pool.
You had a pool
We had
too.
a pool, yeah, and it's like, our school is like on the bay, so we also had like the ocean. So
Oh,
we had
snap.
like an outdoor basketball court, an outdoor pool, and then like a track that was on the ocean.
Oh man, okay.
Yeah.
So you had a school with an outdoor track on the ocean. Okay. So here's another good question, right? Hold on. Let's bring it back. Did the classrooms in your school have windows?
Yeah, every classroom had a window.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause right here. I asked simple things. I asked about an auditorium, I asked about a gym, I asked about a window. So I taught in a school in the heart of North Philly, and let me tell you something. There was no auditorium, there was no gym. But we had gym class. Guess where we had gym class at, though? Someone said the classrooms. Anyone else want to guess? A public park. Anyone else want to guess? A parking lot. Dang, man. Okay. Say again? The lunchroom. Golden answer. We had sweaty 15-year-olds in a cafeteria, and the next period was lunch. Ooh. Okay, how about this? And then when it came to windows, so we had 5 classrooms. So the school I taught at, we had 5 classrooms that had windows. So, windows, they're pretty cool because there's fresh air, and then there's you're laughing, right? There's fresh air, and then there's also this thing called sunlight. I thought ain't the sun good for you and stuff, vitamin D and stuff? Yeah, you're nodding your head, right? But we didn't have that, So those are just 3 questions. I want to keep going a little bit. How did you and your friends get to school in the morning?
We drove, or our parents drove us mostly. We did have a bus, there were bus systems, but
Yeah, bus systems. Okay, you drove. Okay, kids, we took the bus, walked.
Yeah.
A lot of
You
people
couldn't really
drive to
walk.
school here. Y'all used to drive to school in a McLaren. That's y'all, right? and your mom and dad's Lexus, right? That's y'all, right? We had good old SEPTA, man. We was out there 15 minutes before, 10 minutes after, because the bus could come in any point in that window, right?
Wait, so what kind of cars were students driving? Did students get to drive to school themselves?
Yeah,
What kind of
when
cars
we
were
got
they
older,
driving?
they drove Jeeps, or a lot of people drove BMWs.
Oh, what?
Yeah, it was
Now
cars like that. There was I drove a Volkswagen, and yeah.
Wait, so this is a public school.
Yeah.
How are your chemistry labs?
Yeah.
Or what?
Chemistry.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all had chemistry labs? What were they like? Tell me about it.
Well, it was in the classroom, but there was one time we did an experiment with fire, and different colors came out of it. So it was we had pretty big, our school is a very science-oriented school, so they put a lot of focus on those labs.
You have microscopes and
Yeah, we've got microscopes, test tubes.
Oh, wow.
Everything. Yeah.
How about you, man? So
Yeah.
you guys have chemistry labs?
Oh man, no, man. So when I was teaching chemistry, man, we had to use we used YouTube, right, for the Bunsen burners, and one time we got brave. We were able to one of my co-teachers, she drove 30 minutes out the way to get dry ice just to bring it back. And we went to Rite Aid to get some stuff. Gotta love Rite Aid, man, right? Holding it down since 1999, right? No, I'm just playing. Okay. Oh, here's a good one. A parking lot. Y'all had a parking lot.
Yeah.
All right, that's really cool.
Yeah, there's 2 sides of it. There was one side that was outdoors, and then the inside one was under the bus lane.
Okay, how about this? Hold on, let's bring it back, man, because I'm hearing a lot of excited chatter. Y'all talking about y'all schools here. Some people can relate. Some people are like, geez, BMW, man. I thought I was going to get that when I was 50. You got 16-year-olds driving that. How about this? What was your school lunch like? What did y'all eat every day? Oh, I heard some hissing and stuff, man.
I mean, no, for the most part, people brought lunch from home because the lunch food wasn't appetizing.
Oh, okay.
But they had a lot of patties, or sometimes they had mozzarella sticks, and those were big days, or pizza.
Pizza?
Yeah.
What did your pizza look like? Was it like Papa John's, right?
No.
DiGiorno, was it kind of like that? Or was it kind of like the square cardboardish?
Yeah, the square one.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so at least we had that in common, right?
Yeah.
Was anybody on a free lunch program?
Yeah, there were some people.
Free lunch.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I knew some people that would do it, and they wouldn't need it. I know people in my grade would have free lunch, but then they would drive Mercedes to school, so they would abuse the program.
All
Okay,
right.
so so you had a swimming pool?
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
Hold on, I want y'all to really hear this. Hold
Listen.
on. Let's bring the chatter back, right? For some of our excited folks, man, we might invite y'all down, man. I'm loving the chatter. Sports, by a show of hands, who played sports after school? All right. Ooh. Oh, we got some athletes here. Basketball, football, volleyball. Y'all can just yell it out. Football. All right, hold on. Let's try to yell it out one at a time, right? Over here, what do we get? Oh, we had fencing over here. Fencing?
Football.
Football, what position you played?
Linebacker.
Linebacker.
Horseback riding.
Horseback riding. Y'all had horses at your school.
Damn, dude.
Man, the only time I ever saw a horse, I think was at a zoo.
Nah,
We had someone at a.
Nah, it was the police, man.
Oh yeah, the police in the Philly Park. We had someone all the way back there. What were some sports back there? Volleyball, tennis. Anyone on a swim team? Oh snap! Okay.
So how was it at your school, man?
Oh,
Will.
I want her to answer it because I told her to
All
pause.
right.
Hold on. I want to hear this.
Wait, what do you want to?
Yeah, tell me about your after-school program.
Oh.
What is like? A lot of kids play sports. What sports
Yeah,
did you
there
have?
were a lot of like water sports. Like we didn't have a football team. We did have a football field, but
Okay.
we didn't have a team. But we had a lot of people that were on the swim team or the water polo team.
Yeah.
We had soccer.
Oh, snap.
What else? We had like track and fields, cross country.
That's good. So,
Yeah, volleyball, basketball.
man, that's dope.
Yeah.
So, my folks that are from right outside Philly, right? So I'll tell you a little bit about something right here, my man right here. I'll tell you something about in Philly. So in Philly, good thing about Philly is that some schools had like equipment like basketball courts and football fields and tracks. But for schools that didn't have it, one thing that they would do, one thing that they would do is like students would have to hop on a bus after school, maybe go 15, 30 minutes out the way to a different school if they wanted to play sports. Did y'all think sports are important for y'all development as a person? Would you say yes? Raise show of hands. Now imagine how much harder it would be. Y'all have to do homework, maybe have to work after school. But if you want to play sports, you got to like hop on a bus 30 minutes out the way to go to a different school. You got to be really dedicated to do that. But some people, have the fortune. Not anything wrong with that, right? We want every school to have kids that they could play sports right after school and not have to hop on a bus and drive across town to play sports. All right? Yeah. One more question that I had, right, was because y'all know the SAT, right? The SAT. Did your school have like a SAT prep program, or how did kids prepare for the SAT?
We had tutorings, but most people it wasn't like affiliated by the school. You just go to the National Honor Society tutoring, and they would help you with like SAT, or you can do like your own like separate program, like with another private it was like a private school that was like pretty nearby.
Yeah.
They had a program, and like they helped a lot of people from my school.
Okay, SAT. So did anyone else pay for like SAT prep or have their parents pay for SAT prep? Show of hands. All right, how much did that cost? Y'all can just yell it out.
A lot of money.
A lot of money. How much is a lot of money?
I don't know, like $200 for an hour.
$200 an hour. Can anyone beat that?
Like for like an hour.
$250 an hour.
There you go.
About how many hours did you have to? Hold on. Because the SAT one, that gets me fired up. How many hours did you take to?
A good amount. I mean, I would probably go like 1 to 3 times a week.
1 to 3 times a week.
It added up. But like, what are your thoughts on it? Like on
No.
a standardized test?
Yeah, so standardized testing, we can circle back to that. Hold on, bring it back, because this is exciting, right? The SAT problem, right? So a little bit about me when I was like going to school. Let's bring it back. When I was going to school, I'm gonna keep saying when I was going to school till we're ready, right? When I was going to school, the average SAT score at my school was about 1,100 out of 2,400. And the thing is, I was an A student. I was like, man, I want to do well on the SAT. But I didn't have $200 an hour. But luckily, we had a local church, and there was someone that was a volunteer 1 hour on a Saturday. Aren't kids supposed to be watching movies or going to the mall on Saturday? Man, I had to study for the SAT. Still didn't do that well, right? But an hour every week was what I could get from a free prep program that volunteers did on their own free time. And that's because the area I grew up in, it was low income, but it wasn't the lowest of incomes. All right? Yeah, so the SAT one, that generated a lot of chatter.
Hey, so let's talk about this. Hey, so thanks.
Thanks so much.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Hey, so let's talk about the SAT, right? So I want to walk through a couple pieces, data points here. First off, any individual can, these are all averages, okay? These are all racial groups, ethnic groups, cultural groups together, and these are averages. So it's really important that you remember that any one group, any one individual can change the average, okay? Within their particular group. But on average, hang on. But on average, these are the scores for reading and math for kids whose parents don't have a high school diploma. And look how with the education of the parents it increases. And the thing is, Will, what I know is that we use the SAT as the foundation of an IQ test, because mostly people don't take IQ tests, but it becomes a de facto IQ test because it's what we use to decide whether kids are smart enough to go to college, first off, and if they're smart enough to go in one college or in one university or another, and if they should get funding to do that. And so look what happens if you grow up and if you happen to be born into a family with parents that don't have a high school diploma versus have a bachelor's or graduate degree. And one other, next slide. And then take a look at this. How the SAT goes up by family income. Now, I'm not... Yo, is someone talking up there? Yo, dudes. Yo. Listen. So listen. If the SAT becomes sort of a de facto doorway into college and a de facto doorway into better schools, and meaning a de facto doorway into better occupations and more money and so on and so forth, then look how the SAT goes up as your family income goes up. Now, we're struggling here a little bit, right? Because the truth is that every child is equal at some level. Every child has an equal chance to get ahead. Every child has an opportunity to get ahead, is the thinking that many people have. But what I'm seeing here is that, well, maybe that's true, but why is it that SAT scores go up by family income? So much. Not by a small amount, but by so much. And so, Will, can you just talk about the implications of this?
Oh man, no. What can I say about this, man? I feel like the interview itself that we were just doing kind of spoke volumes, right? And the chart speaks for itself. SAT prep, $200 an hour? Dog, if my parents are making $20,000 a year or $40,000 a year collectively, I can't afford SAT prep. So it's hey, yes, every child has the potential. Some of us will be like, yeah, if they just work hard, yeah, I can work as hard as I want, but I can't afford a $200 SAT prep class. You feeling me? He feels me, all right? And the numbers speak for themselves. Every child has that potential, but not every child has the same opportunity. That is the issue, and that is the definition of systemic and social inequity. Welcome to sociology, right? Shane, that's all I had to say about that.
So, Will, the thing for me that jumps out is, well, first off, let me just, we want to give kids an opportunity, right?
Right.
And we all want an opportunity, and we want to think that we have that opportunity. But if I were to line you all up in a single line, we go outside and we stand in the street and we line you up from those of you who have the lowest family income at this end. And 700 plus people later, one by one, we just keep increasing whatever your family income is. And we keep going to those of you who have the highest family income down at that end of the line. Okay? And then we say, oh, all right, now let's see what your SAT scores are. what we're going to find on average is that the lowest SAT scores, hey, by the way, Niche, you should have, let's play around with the Jumbotron here, okay? Hey, what we're going to see on average is that the lowest SAT scores are down at this end. And the highest SAT scores are down at that end. And if you're down here, it doesn't matter if you're white, black, brown, Asian, it doesn't really matter. You're going to think, like, hey, well, I worked hard. Like, I studied. I did the best I could. Like, this is good. I took advantage of everything. But what you're not seeing is that people down there got advantages that you don't even know exist because you're living down here. You know, like you, Will, you dig your 1 hour a week on Sunday. And you're thinking, or on Saturday, and you're like, okay, well, this is good. At least you weren't in the lowest of the low-income neighborhoods, right. So you got something, and that's fine. And it's fine here. Those with the lowest family income, on average, you're going to have the lowest scores. It doesn't mean, dude, the person in this class with the lowest family income, whoever that is, you might have the highest SAT score in this classroom, but you probably don't. Because it's about averages. And so you down here, if you're down at this thing, you're thinking like, okay, well, hey, but I'm going to take advantage of some things. Man, you have no idea what people down at this end have, the advantages they have. You can't even comprehend it. If people really did, we'd have a revolution in this country. Because down here, you're like, man, it's just so, and it's not just about being able to afford SAT prep, right? It's a whole. Tell me, Will.
No, one thing that you were just saying, right? So like, oh my gosh, one thing this makes me think, hard work. Like, if you just work hard, you're gonna be successful. How many people heard that term? Just work hard, you'll do well, right? But it's like hard work, and I hope y'all learned this lesson, if not in this class, throughout some point in your career. Hard work does not equal success. It's hard work plus opportunity. Because I'm telling you, yeah, I'm studying I had 1 hour test prep class, but I'm reading the book 10 hours every weekend. But that's not enough. I don't have the resources. I don't have the guidance. I didn't have the opportunity. That's why when I come to a place like Penn State, I had more resources. I was able to do way more and go way further. Work hard. If you really think that your parents work harder and the parents that come from low-income communities, bro, you don't even know what you're talking about.
Hang on, that are waking up at 4:30 in the morning to take a 2-hour bus ride to do a job that's paying $19 an hour to keep food on the table. Like, who's working harder? And
right.
Do you think? And
it's things like this, right? Look, man, there's no shame because like we want to be in a place where everyone has that opportunity. But how many people in this room can say they can raise their hand and say they took 3 buses in the morning every day just to make it to high school at 7 o'clock? How many people can say that? Let me see a show of hands. 3 buses. Who took 3 buses? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? In the back. Can we get a mic for that person?
Nah, I don't.
No? Because I want to know, like...
Nitty, can you get a mic and take it up?
I want to know, like, why you had to take 3 buses, and then...
Yo, while we're waiting on that, I want to make one point here.
Yeah.
For those of you who are down at this end, who really, your family makes more money, your parents are more educated, you get the scores. Do you really know what's going on at that end? Do you have any idea of the benefits and privileges you have that people down there don't have? So when you're sitting around thinking, earning something, getting something for yourself, right? The scholarship, the higher scores, Chem, OChem at Penn State is actually pretty easy for you. It's not really that difficult. Do you have any idea that maybe that has something to do with the fact that you grew up down here? And you don't see it. Like this is like affirmative action that you don't see and you don't understand. And so the issue is, if we think that we're all equal or we all have an equal chance of making it or getting ahead or whatever it is, it's because we're not understanding the nature of the obstacles that are out there and the enablements, the ways in which some of us are enabled, and some of us just have to face walls on a regular basis. All right, go ahead, Matt.
So I just wanted to know, like, because there's two people, right? I wanted to know, why did you have to take 3 buses? Like, what was your situation? Tell me a little bit about it.
Push the button up on the side. Push it up.
Testing. Okay. So I'm from New York, and at the time I lived in Yonkers, and from Yonkers to the school I went to, it was 3 buses. I went to a Catholic school. I was fortunate enough to go to a Catholic school, but the 3 buses, I did have to get up at like 5:30, 6 in the morning.
Exactly.
For the 25, the 16, and then the train.
Dang,
And
you got that memorized, right?
Yeah.
To go to a school in a better area, right? I had to take
Yeah.
3 buses and a train.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, right? We got one over here, right?
Yeah, I kind of had a similar situation where I didn't go to a terrible high school, but I had to wake up and get on 2 separate pad buses just to catch the school bus that all the other kids would take. So,
Geez, where are you from?
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. Okay. Black and yellow. And so it's this idea, right? Because a lot of people, hold on, y'all gonna want to hear this. Because a lot of people, they're like, you drop this word in the room, right? Privilege. Ooh, right? Oh my gosh. Like, no, I worked hard. You can't tell me that. Okay, cool. All right. How about this? Imagine the kids that had to take 3 buses didn't have to take 3 buses. That's like what, an hour and a half that they could have saved to study, play sports, right? Saying privilege doesn't mean that your life was easier. It's just saying that your social conditions is not a factor that made it harder. So yeah, you can work hard, but remember, hard work plus opportunities will equal success, not just hard work. But y'all don't really hear me though. Go ahead, Sam.
So a question for you. So you're down at this end, right?
Yeah.
You're down at that. So we line the whole room up, and you're down toward this end. Okay?
Yeah, like I'm like right over there.
What were some of the obstacles that you faced, just in terms of like, how'd you get to the place of believing in yourself? It's like, you know, it's not just because it's not just I'm going to work hard, I'm going to take advantage of all the opportunities. At some level, there's another factor in here. You got to believe that it's possible.
Yeah.
Like when I remember when I told my mom that I was going to go to graduate school and get a PhD. Her response was, "You can't do that." And I'm like, "Well, hang on. What do you mean?" She said, "Like, well, how are you going to do that? Like, how do you do that? Like." And what she was saying was, nobody from our background does that.
Right.
She wasn't putting me down, saying like, "Oh, you're not smart enough." It was just like, because my mother thought I walked on clouds. I mean, she loved me in that way, but she was just like, you can't do that. Like her thing for me when I was graduating high school was to be a court stenographer, that I would sit in a courtroom and I would type up everything that was happening in the courtroom. It wasn't to be a lawyer. It wasn't to be a judge. It wasn't to be a prosecuting attorney. It was to be the court stenographer. So what I want to ask you is, how'd you get here, man? Like, what'd you have to overcome down at that end to believe in yourself, to be able to say, no, I can do something else that a lot of people can't overcome, but you did. Like, what happened?
Right. Oh, man. Shout out to all the moms, right? No, but in all seriousness, a huge factor that played a role was like my mom. So my mom was working 16 hours a day, every single day, just to make sure that my brother and I had what we needed. So for me, I was like, geez, man, even if the odds are against me, like I gotta do something, all right? And I was fortunate enough to actually have teachers who believed in me and pushed me when I couldn't believe in myself. You know, we didn't have all those resources. And I think it's also kind of telling where it's just like, even ending up at Penn State, like I applied for 13 different scholarships. They all said no, except one. And the thing is, the only reason I got the opportunity to apply for this one scholarship was because this nonprofit in Philly which supports inner city schools, they decided to start a pilot program at my high school. And I was actually selected by a teacher who I built a great relationship with. And so even for me, in my circumstances, I had the right opportunity. And if all those things didn't happen, I wouldn't be here. Because imagine getting like I got into all the schools I applied to, but I was like, oh, okay, like I can't afford them. So I needed to apply to scholarships. If I didn't get that one scholarship, I wouldn't be standing in front of you today. And I had to deal with being in the right time, right place, and the right time, surrounded by the right people, even in my circumstances. And it's one of few.
And believing in yourself.
Oh, and believing in myself. And it's like believing that I actually had a chance, right? Even if the averages said otherwise, trying to believe in myself and being surrounded by teachers who actually believed in me when I couldn't see it for myself. As a matter of fact, funny story, right? I actually was interested in Penn State, but and they came to my high school, and I actually decided not to apply because I just thought I couldn't get in. And I had a teacher that said, Will, what are you doing? You're a good student. Why don't you just apply and see what happens? I was like, I don't have the SAT scores. I worked hard. It just didn't work out. They said, apply anyway. And I was able to get in. So it's not even just about believing in myself. It's also about having mentors that believe in you when you can't see it for yourself. Because sometimes when everything around you is saying no and everything around you is saying, I can't make it, and it's not just believe in yourself, work hard, man. No, you need someone to inspire you in the darkest of your moments.
You know, it's like, I think people sometimes, especially a lot of folks in here who have parents who are professionals, and you know, when you grow up, say like me, like, well, I don't know, how many PhDs did you interact with? How many
none.
professional people, doctors, lawyers?
No, none.
So when you grow up like us, right? I mean, it's different, right? Because I grew up in Toledo, you grew up in Philly, but you know, nobody went to college in my world. Nobody, man. And like, the idea that I could maybe do that is just as profoundly next to difficult as it would be for you to grow up and decide that you wanted to actually be a court stenographer.
Right.
Or you want to just drive a dump truck.
Right.
Because for the boys in here in particular, when you were like 3 years old, the only thing you wanted to do was drive a dump truck or a fire truck or control one of those big cranes, because that's all little boys want to do, and some girls as well. And you could have grown up to do that, but you didn't, and your parents wouldn't have let you do that. It just like got knocked out of you.
Exactly.
There's no way that would have happened. It's not possible. Well, it's also not possible for a lot of other people, especially people down at this end of that line, to imagine that one day they're going to be a doctor, lawyer, architect, whatever the case is.
Right, and actually to even add to that, right, so at my high school, right, like I said, I was fortunate enough to like have teachers that believed in me. So now I'm stepping into the classroom, man, here I am, energetic, young person. I'm like, man, I'm here to make an impact. I'm at this school, I'm at my placement school teaching, and at least in my school I would say, yeah, like college was a thing, but also some people didn't go to college. But I'm an 11th grade high school teacher, and I'm asking students, okay, like, who here wants to go to college? Show of hands, right? You know, I did the same thing I did here, there, and then people were like, oh, what? Like maybe 3 hands rose up. I'm like, what do you mean? I was like, wait, college? You know, I mean, yeah, you know, college isn't everything, but like, come on, college? Only 3 people out of 30 kids in my classroom? You're not serious. So I'm like, so even coming from Philly, going back to Philly, going to a different neighborhood, it was different circumstances that led to different outcomes. 3 students, whereas maybe on my school, maybe half the kids would raise their hand. But here, 3 out of 30, 1 in 10. I was like, geez. And you know what's funny? 1 in 10 students from low-income backgrounds actually make it to college, right?
And that's right. And how many end up graduating, right?
Right.
And for you, like, how many students at your school in Miami didn't go to college? 3. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's like the professions is like, okay, I'll just go into carpentry, I'll go into a vocational tech, and the things, yeah, we need blue collar We need blue-collar workforce. We need vocational
Yeah,
techs.
yeah.
But at
Yeah.
the same time, for it to not even be an option, for it to not believe in ourselves, I think a lot of us toot our own ego. Yeah, I got it from the mud. No, you didn't, man. Relax, bro. You're not even aware of like the people that inspired you, and you think you did it from yourself. Self-made. I don't believe it.
So for me, Will, the one thing I say often is, I'm not gonna, everybody works hard, right? So listen, if you're in this classroom, your parents made a lot of money, they paid for everything, you have your one of your parents' credit cards right now, you have no idea, you just spend it, you use it, you don't think about it, it doesn't matter, you're driving a really nice car, all of that. It doesn't mean you don't work hard. I'm sure you work hard. I'm sure there are some of you who are really lazy and annoyingly lazy, and I would hate to have you as a kid to get all that free stuff and you're lazy. But whatever. But most of you still work hard. You don't get an A in OChem. You don't walk into OChem and you just get an A because, because you're rich and you're privileged and all that. No. You still work. You still got to study.
Exactly.
It's all good. But the issue is this. When you're one of these people down at this end of this spectrum, and you have the idea that the only reason you got there is because you work hard, and the people down there could do the same thing as you. That's where my sociological self will. That's where I start to breathe fire. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yo, Sam, real quick, so I know we're running a little. What are your thoughts on like getting a question or two? We've said a lot. I want to actually see if anyone actually has a question or a response or a comment on the things that we've been talking about, right? We've talked about a lot. Inequity, all schools are not equal, right? We talked about different access to schools. We talked about, hey, we all work hard, but hard work plus opportunity is what equals success, not just hard work, right? I'd love to hear some responses, questions. Let's get to it, and let's be fast, too. Here we
All
go.
right, dude, go ahead.
Oh, let's start right here.
Wait, you got a question?
Yeah, he has a question, too.
All right, go ahead, man. Go ahead, bro.
So you mentioned that you have studied the actual issues sociologically and economically.
Yes.
What are some of the solutions that you personally or like your group have came up with to, solve this issue on a bigger level?
Dude, it's a solution, dog.
This guy, honestly, sign up for he wants to be part of Teach for America. So, real quick, the issues, oh man, it's like everything we talked about today, right? It's like simple things like not having resources that, like, all kids work hard, but not having the resources to, like, actualize that potential, right? And we notice we notice that opportunity is distributed across lines of class, race, zip code, literally and figuratively. We just talked about the property taxes. Awesome. We have another question right here.
Wait, hang on. I want to say one thing, though.
Oh, yeah.
Look, one solution that you have, my friend, is that you can't change, like next September, you can't suddenly send a lot of resources into a low-income school.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so people down at that end suddenly, they're going to have all these resources. Maybe not you all, but people that come after you. You can't do that. But what you can do is send some really highly motivated teachers into some school. People that can be role models and can really have that energy, man,
I love that you added that part, right? Because I left off solution, right? So look, a lot of us, when we talk about inequity and injustice, we think it's this like large thing outside of us, but no. Especially the classroom, it is a microcosm of the world in inequity, right? So it's like, as Sam is saying, we're sending highly motivated leaders and teachers into the classroom. For one, we do that in underserved areas so that you are getting proximate to our nation's injustices, right? A lot of us had resources to study the SAT, and now you're going to go to law school, go to medical school, do whatever, make policy and make change, but you still don't know what it's like in underserved communities. So until you actually are in it and understand how the system works, you won't be able to change things, and change is slow.
Yeah, and so just you give it a couple of years and you're killing it.
Right, we have a question right here.
All right, go ahead, man.
For like the thing that you work for, like the Teachers for America, I think.
Yeah, Teach for America,
Teach
man,
for
my
America.
guy.
Would that ever be something like Teach for like the whole world, or something like that?
Yeah, no. I love that. We have Teach for All, brother, right? There's a global issue, right? We're talking about issues here in America, but it's a global phenomenon. Because in America, we say it's the land of the free, the home of the brave, the land of opportunity, yet 16 million kids living below the poverty line, half don't graduate. Perfect question. Let's get some more questions. Here we go. Man, nobody in the back has a question? Don't be sleeping back there, man. We're going to come and check. Thanks so much, man.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question about how do we help lower income people with their mentality with, if we give them resources, how can we help them accept the idea that they can go to college or move on? Well, no, because I've worked in areas of lower income, and I had a kid who we were talking, and he didn't even want to go to high school, and he was 10 years old. So how do we like help the family systems and the kids believe that they can go farther?
Yeah, and again, it's not, I want to be really clear. It's not just go to college, because it's also just like opening one's mind to the world in some new ways, right? So yes, this is a really good question.
No, that's a very important question, right? So it's like, how do we help people facing impossible odds believe in themselves? And this is why we have our approach, right? We need passionate, promising leaders to step into the classroom. And just like, did you ever have someone make you, have you ever felt like you couldn't believe in yourself and someone helped you believe in yourself? Yeah, you.
Here, wait, hang on. It's on.
We did a pool that was for lower income families.
Right.
It was a grant by the government, and you just have to we would work with them they would get so excited when they would go to summer school and come back and tell us they got an A. So I think it was just being a positive force for them and encouraging them that, yeah, you got this, you're smart enough.
Exactly. Just like people have made you believe in yourself, but the thing is now we're working with population, working in underserved communities that have way more odds against them, so we just need a little bit more encouragement. We need people that are willing to step in and step up, build genuine relationships, and be humble. Not here to be a savior, because all people have the potential and all people can believe in themselves. They just need a little bit more encouragement facing impossible odds. Here we go. Yeah, push it up, man.
So for Teach for America, what's kind of the timeline that people go through? For example, if I want to do it, what would happen? Basically, what's the timeline for someone to get the training and to go into the field?
Perfect. So you are trained. You go to a 6 to 8 week intensive training program the summer after you graduate, and then you get a coach from Teach for America. You get ongoing training and support throughout your 2 years teaching. Right? So that way, 6 to 8 weeks, that's not fully enough, but you're going to get continued ongoing support to make sure that you can make an impact and expand opportunities for all kids. And then after your 2-year commitment, a lot of people do stay. But like I said, we offer pathways to leadership, 100 graduate school partnerships, and we have an alumni network of 60,000 members strong in all different sectors that you can leverage to make an impact. All right? Great question.
Hey, over here. Yeah.
I'm curious to see, where do you think you would have ended up if you didn't?
Wait, who's speaking? Can you raise your hand real quick? Oh.
Where do you think you would have ended up without those small little opportunities that you had, just with the hard work? Where do you think you would have ended up?
Man, that's a great question. Where do I think I would have ended up? I don't know, man. Right? You could say the stereotypical answers. Dad in jail, man. Sheesh, man. Maybe I could have been working at a thrift store. Right? Maybe I could have been in a similar place at a different school.
Dude, maybe you'd have been a fashion designer and really successful. Look at you, man.
Maybe, but it's a hard question because but the thing is we can only speculate at this point, right? We can say the typical answers based on our averages. That's the definition of sociology. But individuals surpass averages. But the thing is, on average, they don't. Great question.
Hey, we only have a minute left.
So, okay.
So you want to tell people what this is.
Okay,
right?
perfect. Yeah, and then for those of us that still have questions, I'll be hanging around for 25, 30 minutes after class.
Wait, we have two.
Hold on.
Wait, we have 2 minutes. 2 minutes. So don't
pack up yet, please. Don't pack up. I need your attention for just 2 minutes. All right, hold on. All right, so look. I would love for you to take out your phones. I need you to scan this QR code, and I need you to fill it out. Biggest thing is I came here for work, and it's I'm trying to also collect that data. When you scan this QR code, all it's going to do, I'm going to be sending you just a follow-up email. If you are interested in learning more, please respond back. Let's set up a time to chat. Let's go to an info session. And if you're not interested, then just ignore the email. We also offer internship programs so that you can make an impact now. We have a virtual internship in the spring, 3 to 5 hours a week, where you'll be mentoring a small group of students, helping them believe in themselves, right? Supporting academic outcomes and social-emotional learning, and it's $1,200 pre-tax, 5 hours a week. So scan this code, fill it out, and also if you scan this code, you'll be entered into a raffle. Hold on, y'all gonna love this. If you scan and you successfully submit this code, you'll be entered into a raffle for a chance to win a $100 Uber Eats gift card. Who hungry?
Duh. All right. Hey, listen, man. But by the way, part of scanning the code is saying like you were here in class. Hey, can we give it up for Will, man? See that? See that? Good. Yo, and final thing. Will's here to talk, so he's got a lot of time to talk to you all. But importantly, if he's convinced anyone that they definitely want to do TFA, I got a water thing. I got something for you. I have a gift for you, man. But Will's here.